Hi, my synchronous learners. This is Ms. Moreno, and I'll be going over LE52, which is nuclear power plants, and this is a video for videos 1 and 2 in the lesson. So video 1 talks about a nuclear reactor versus a nuclear weapon. So what she really tries to push with nuclear reactors and nuclear weapons is that nuclear reactors, the ones that we use in the power plants for nuclear energy, they are controlled. So that is the main point of them. We put them in a situation to where we control them and we try to avoid those big explosions. While on the other hand, when people are trying to use nuclear energy for weapons, such as nuclear weapons, this is an uncontrolled reaction. They have nothing in place to stop them from reacting and blowing up. That's what they want them to do. They want them to blow up, to create destruction, because that's the main point when it's being used as a weapon. So again, a nuclear reactor has a controlled reaction. That's why they're set in, like, I think they said 10 feet deep of concrete. Like, they're really trying to make sure that nothing bad happens. While when you use it for nuclear weapons, well, that's not your main goal, right? You're kind of trying to get the biggest bang for your buck. Nuclear reactors use chain reactions. If you remember, in order for you to have a chain reaction, you're using that critical mass. So that happens with nuclear reactors. On the other hand, nuclear weapons does not care about using a chain reaction. It actually avoids it by causing one big explosion in under a second. So this stops the chance of the nuclear weapon being used as a chain reaction. Why don't they want a chain reaction? A chain reaction is easier to stabilize, and it is also a bit slower. So that moves us into the next one. It is slow and continuous fission. So that's what they want. They use a chain reaction. They can control it. That way they're able to harness its energy. Well, on the other hand, in a nuclear weapon, they just blow it up. If you see there my beautiful image of dominoes, they just space it out so much by blowing it up that it's no longer able to knock the other domino next to it down, such as you would see in a chain reaction. So it is very difficult to maximize reactivity because that's not what they want. They don't want to have a controlled reaction with a chain reaction. They just want a big bang. On nuclear reactors, energy is definitely harnessed. They want to make sure they use that energy to produce light, heat, everything else that we use our energy for. In nuclear weapons, it is not harnessed. That is not the goal for the nuclear energy there. It is a weapon, and that's what it wants to be used for. So they have created nuclear weapons even after Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Priscilla, which by surprise is also my middle name, was an atomic bomb that was 2 times as bad. So 2 times as large, 2 times as destructive as Nagasaki and Hiroshima when it blew up. And this was tested in the deserts of Nevada or Las Vegas, that Las Vegas area. So are we capable of making highly destructive nuclear weapons? Absolutely. Should we? That's a different question, right? More moral based and not science based. So is it easy to create a bomb? Can you go off in the street and get your supplies and create a nuclear weapon? No, absolutely not. Your uranium-235, again, this is the isotope uranium with a mass of 235, needs to be pure. And you have to be very careful when it is transported because if, let's say, it bumps into something, then it'll cause a blow up, and that's not the intention. So whenever they do use this uranium-235, this is an isotope that is not as abundant as the one that they normally use, which is uranium-238. So it is not easy. The transport's very difficult, and that's good. We want to keep some checks in place so not anyone off the street can create a nuclear bomb. So on the video question, they asked which type uses several chain reactions. Again, that is nuclear reactors. Nuclear weapons blows up in less than a second, no chain reactions. That's its goal. Energy is harnessed. Again, that is our nuclear reactors. The goal is to harness that energy and use it as an alternative for fossil fuels. Uncontrolled nuclear reaction, nuclear weapon. They don't want to control anything. They just want it to go boom. And one giant explosion, nuclear weapons. So on our second video, This one goes into how they create that nuclear fuel. So as I stated before, uranium-238 is the most common isotope. That's what they have in nature that's occurring. But nuclear fuel is enriched uranium. So what is enriched uranium? Enriched uranium is that 200, most of the uranium in there is uranium-235, and it is more than 0.7%. So in a power plant, we have about 3 to 5% that is uranium-235, so it's not very enriched per se. In weapons, so this is where it comes to tell you that it's very, very hard to make a nuclear weapon. They need 90% or more of uranium, enriched uranium-235, right? So that is very, very difficult to obtain. So how do you enrich uranium? How do you get it to this form to where we can use it in a power plant and ultimately in a weapon? There is a process called gaseous diffusion. So what they do is they separate the molecular mass in this gaseous phase. So the lighter molecules, because they're lighter, they move faster, and then the heavier molecules sink a little bit towards the bottom. So the other place that you see this gaseous diffusion is in a process used for separating the crude oil. So distillation tower separates it by weight, and you're able to purify the hydrocarbons. So if I draw a little image here, so it's like everything is mixed up, right? All your molecules, all that good stuff, everything is mixed up. But once you get everything into the gaseous phase, what happens is your heavier would sink to the bottom because they're heavier. You would have your middle section, and then you would have your lighter ones. So in this, when you have that gaseous diffusion, it separates, and it is so much easier to separate them. That way you can get your uranium-235 and get what you need to either power a power plant or a weapon. So uranium ore is depicted as UO3, and it is a very complicated reaction. She just said complicated reaction, and you produce UF4. So UF4 is what you use. You combine it with fluorine gas, and ultimately you produce hex. So hex is very important for creating nuclear fuel because it has a special property to where it can sublime. So sublimation is going from a solid to a gas at 56 degrees Celsius. So because this substance has that special property of subliming or going from a solid to a gas at 50 degrees Celsius, all they do is they have hex. They provide heat, and they're able to produce the hex gas and separate the gas by gaseous diffusion, and you're able to get the uranium-236 and 238. So what happens to our depleted uranium? So that uranium-238 with hex, and then you have uranium-236 with hex, and then have uranium-238, which is slower because it's heavier, right? That is depleted uranium. So it's spent, you don't need it, there's no use for it. So what do we do with all that leftover stuff? So again, depleted uranium is uranium-238. It is stored all over the US. So one use that they have for it is armor-piercing munitions. So again, armor-piercing, it is weapons that pierce through armor, and that is used by the US military. Another way that they use it is they blasted that uranium-238 with a neutron, and then you create uranium-239 and then plutonium. So plutonium, when combined with an electron, it is very, very dangerous, right? So if you're trying to make weapons, this is a process that you might use that depleted uranium. So you can create plutonium. Plutonium is very dangerous. This was actually what they used to make the bomb that they dropped on Nagasaki. So this is why it is a not nationwide, but an international security problem. They need to make sure that any of that depleted uranium, that uranium-238 that they get rid of or that they store, it is done so properly and away from people that want to use it for bad things, because if they go into the wrong hands, guess what? They can use that depleted uranium that no one wants, hit it with a neutron, and then hit it with an electron, and you have plutonium, and you can make a bomb. So that is ultimately what they're trying to stray away from. So that's why they have regulations. There's future videos on that. And then in the video, hex sublimes at 56 degrees, during which hex changes from a solid phase to a gaseous phase. Again, it's just making sure that you know what sublimation is. And this is the first part of how they use the science to give you that nuclear fuel. Hopefully this helps, guys. There will be an assignment listed, very easy, just making sure that you know the main points. I hope y'all are doing well. I'll post up a video tomorrow for the last two videos. Have a great day, guys.